So to actually point at where she's going, look at his name. It's actually not DayToRemeber. It's DayToRemeber for whatever reason. But you can't make fun of the proof in the pudding when he's doing stuff like that. I mean, that's Snoopy, guys.
You know what I love the most about Day throughout today is he has actually gone from being a little bit quiet, you know, subtly sitting there at his seat, and now every single kill, every single engagement, just non-stop trash talk being spewed from this man's mouth.
Yo, it's my lane. Get out my lane. So earlier today, before anything started, it's 9:30 in the morning. I come into the studio, and I'm just like, I'm messing with all the players and everybody. I'm just like, yo, Day, you ready to lose? He's like, don't get in my head. I'm in my own head. I'm going to win today, buddy. Just watch. And he just like Hulkamania's out at me. And I'm like, all right, dude, I'm down. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. There's nothing more than I like to see a confident player come through and actually pull it off. And like I said before, I mean, this is his first go in the big league, so to speak. I'm really not surprised. Chaos, you've been around this guy for a while. Are you surprised that he's doing this?
No, I think when he was in the Challenger Cup scene, he was actually a super strong player, and I'm glad to see him getting the recognition he deserves.
He's certainly earning it. Him and his team now one game away from finding themselves at the final opponent here for our Friday. Keep in mind, this is only the Friday ladder. Come Sunday, they're going to have to play against, well, my momentary analyst, Chaos here. So, in memory of Gabe, they can bring this to game 3 should they find a win here. But Oxygen Supremacy not going to give it up too easily. In the second spot, they're going to ban out Scotty and Hun Bats, ever banned.
And I'm sure that Gabe aren't looking to go down without a fight. If we're going to see a best of 3 today, I think that this is really the time for another team to step it up and see if they can even take a little bit of a punch into Oxygen's momentum.
Yeah, it's combination momentum, and I asked a question before on the desk. I said, look, you know, where does momentum, how far can momentum carry you? And then what happens when you just run out of strategies and new tricks? Well, they're not done. They're still bringing out new strats.
I think momentum's a huge part, especially when I remember us going through the Worlds circuit. Momentum was huge for us. It kept us motivated. It kept us strong. We felt invincible. We wanted to. We were playing our best because of that momentum. And I do find even if you lose games, you're still able to pick yourself back up because you realize you've gotten this far and you're not just going to drop out here. So you're not going to end it there.
That was going to be my question. Was a lot of people both they're hitting me up on Twitter, and I'm seeing people here say, look, if Oxygen drop this game, they're just gone. They're not going to be able to pick themselves. Is that the truth?
No, I think that the point is they already think they've gotten to the end. They already think they've gotten there, and now they're just going through the motions because they've gotten this far, and to that means so much to them. They're not going to, like, fail going this far so far.
And just in case you're a newer fan to the Smite scene, Chaos was on the team that made it from the absolute bottom to the finals at Worlds once upon a time. So I think he's got a little bit of credence in his credit on that topic. And on the topic of this game, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Medusa Susano for Oxygen Supremacy. Skeeledon has been out of control. Watching him snatch Snoopy from underneath the tower and then DayToRemeber killing him while standing up was just way too much fun.
If I'm Snoopy, I'm already sweating so hard right now. Just knowing that Susano is probably going to be camping my lane yet again. That's the absolute worst feeling as a Hunter player, is even when you're positioning and you're not overstepping and you don't want to box or do anything like that, and you just have this Susano chasing you down because the guy has infinite amounts of dashes, and it's a complete nuisance.
So the Osiris here coming out for likely Whalrus. Love this selection in the solo lane. Absolutely love it. You're going to get some of that early lane, or that early push that we got out of the Odin, but he'll translate a little bit better towards the late game. More importantly, I personally think that Osiris can do more of the heavy lifting than the Odin can. Odin's more the setup man. Osiris can dunk it himself. And I think that right now, for In Memory of Gabe, you go to the hot hand. Whalrus is the hot hand. Yeah. Give him a character he can do work on.
I think Osiris is definitely really good at zoning out one target and picking off that one target, whereas Odin was really good for setting up the team. However, if the team wasn't following up too well, it obviously fell short. Yeah. And in this case, maybe the Osiris can pump out way more pressure on his own because he can do his job by himself.
We've seen Whalrus perform exceptionally well on this Osiris before, too, in a LAN environment at that. The very last time that we saw him here, actually, and he went absolutely ham before.
I'm excited to see Wally on the Osiris. This is just a character that I think if a Memory of Gabe are going to leverage something out of solo lane, it's going to be on something like an Osiris. So we'll see how it works out. Second round of bans, Serket and the Morrigan already taken down by Oxygen first, and then in Memory of Gabe, Ymir was selected. I feel like Ymir is this, he's always meta, but he's never meta.
It's really dependent on how well you play the walls, and I think NeiruMah has been nailing the walls super, super well. It keeps away a lot of auto attacks, it keeps away a lot of damage, it can lock in people, and if you're able to do that on Ymir, I think he's actually a much better character than the meta usually states. He's a character that really comes down to if you are a support inside your heart, right? If you have those natural instincts, when you see that, when you think of Ymir, the players that come to mind are players like Iraf or players like NeiruMah, who they're just born to be these support players. You know, you look at even Pain has a tendency to bring out the Ymir occasionally and really make it work. And it's like you said, the walls, the geometry, how does that bang? Wheelish and Cupid, your last two bans here for our game 2 of what could be a 3-game set. Oxygen Supremacy has the option, looking for their 4th pick.
Another consideration you have to make, though, is that this Ymir could potentially be Skeeledon in the jungle. And with the Sobek pick being locked in, again, we're still not certain whether or not Oxygen Supremacy are going to opt for the Guardian jungler, even the Sobek in the solo lane, and like having a very heavy front line. They love these front lines with double hunters, and I think that they have the option to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Kiki comes from that old school of solo laners. When you're looking at Season 1 and Season 2, and you're thinking, when Europe really dominated the solo lane world, you're thinking of players like Xayah, who bringing out the really weird jank, the assassins, the strange stuff. That's the school that Kiki went to. And so the Susano solo, not too weird if you're thinking along the lines of Kiki. So certainly something to think about. Ymir and Sobek will be selected. So we've got a lot of different options as far as where that short lane could wind up. In Memory of Gabe, they've got the Thoth, which I think was a very strong pick. Thoth is a seemingly simple character. You shoot through the window and somebody dies. But there's a lot of implications both in where you stand, but more importantly, where your opponent stands that Thoth can change.
I think the biggest thing is how well you land the ultimate and usually the target you select. If you end up hitting the ult on a tank, it usually doesn't get too much value, and you end up seeing whenever the Thoth usually does that, because there's so much sustain in teams right now, they just heal it back up and it's like it never happened. However, if they actually end up hitting that carry, it just wipes them off and it turns the fight completely in their favor.
And it forces the opponent to stand a certain way. It makes those fire giant dances so much more tumultuous, and you just can't ever feel safe.
It's almost impossible to play around because you can't see where it's coming from. It's so long ranged.
That's the thing. That's the problem. And you want some long range, Vulcan's going to cook one up for you. That mid mage is going to be certainly strong here. We'll see how this one works out. Oxygen Supremacy, they've got a weirdly unique, strong composition, which is what I've said, I think, every match. This is just what they've been doing. Is this where the train stops? Does the buck stop here, or is Oxygen Supremacy moving on to soar?
I feel like they're going to take the game. However, I do give the comp to In Memory of Gabe. However, I think both of them have their dream comps right now, and it's really any man's game.
I was hoping for a little bit more spice on that. You could tell I wanted it with the Ymir jungle and Kiki doing something Kiki, but at the same time, I'd rather give it to Oxygen Supremacy. I want to see them take on Soar.
We'll see what happens. This one, I'm going to play it safe and not call it. Hindu and Toli bring us the match.
There we go. Thanks so much, FDOT and the analysts as well. We're ready for the next game. Just loading the guys in right now. Totally, let's be honest, right? Oxygen Supremacy came in here with a hope and a dream. A hope and a dream to just try and perform well. But the actual reality of the Gauntlet actually doing what the maximum potential of the Gauntlet could do, go from the bottom seed challenger all the way up to getting a shot at Masters. They have the potential to do this here.
The train is still rolling, and I am not hopping off of this train. Oxygen Supremacy all the way. I'm rooting for them in this game, hoping that we see them make it a little bit further here against Soar Gaming. You know, they're trying they're basically, like you mentioned before, that 5th seed team right now out of North America. They're going to be battling for 4th if they're against Soar in the next set, but they have to go through this last game first.
Well, last of they've got at least one win here will put them through, but if they lose this one, they still get a rematch against Memory of Gabe. All the games today are best of 3. At the start of this one, though, it looks like we're going to see Memory of Gabe and Oxygen play this relatively safe. You can see the wards placed down early on from Oxygen at the right and left-hand Harpies. They're clearly aware that they may lose lane pressure here up against the Thoth and the Sylvanus.
Really worried about that level 1 Thor making a sneaky rotation.
The flanky janky from Osiris.
Could be.
Not the Thor. Look where Osiris is right now. He's not in the solo lane. He's hanging out around the mid lane looking for the waves to start. But they've telegraphed this, Oxygen. They have prepped for Memory of Gabe.
The ward is there, spotting out the rotation from Whalrus. He's not going to be able to really get anything. And during this whole time, we're seeing KikiSoCheeky starting the speed buff here, getting the small minis, then rotating to the lane.
NeiruMah having a bit of poke damage here. He's not going to die overall at all being level 1. Returns some nice damage back to Cynosure, who returns the favor with just a single tap there from the anvil. Left-hand side, the red buff will go the way of Memory of Gabe there as it's stolen away, but look what Oxygen did. They went to the right-hand side, and they're going to strip the speed buff from Memory of Gabe.
Skeeledon now hitting level 2. He could make this early rotation, trying to shut down Whalrus playing this Osiris, and that's definitely one guy that you want to make sure that doesn't get that kind of early momentum
level
lead.
2 for NeiruMah ahead of Memory of Gabe. Beads forced on Cynosure, the lacerate hit, but the beads absorb the stun, I should say, and allows him to get away for now. But early beads on Cynosure puts him behind.
Definitely a huge play there as it happens around the 115 mark, making sure he's in position to try to get off another freeze. Very bold move.
Why did he jump in?
No beads!
Why did he jump in? Snoopy though gets great damage off on NeiruMah, thanks to the help of the archers as well. NeiruMah could have been in trouble, but Snoopy's decision there to actually fight helped keep his jungler alive.
You could tell though that Snoopy and Cynosure definitely were calculating that play out. Even Snoopy having to dash in to absorb some of these in-hands from DayToRemeber. That could have went south very quickly for Memory of Gabe.
Well, Cynosure's going to take a quick trip back to base now. He won't be too happy about that, only be able to pick up Boots 1. No potions either available for him. Snoopy, however, will defend his own buffs by clearing the babies out, at least to get him a little bit more experience. He can't do the buff solo at only level 3 without taking considerable damage.
Needing to make some sort of adjustments here compared to the first game. Snoopy having to try to get that experience advantage over his opposition, but Whalrus now in a 1v2 is going to get under the safety of his own tier 1 tower. Skeeledon was not in the right spot at the right time. Without being level 5 makes it a little bit more difficult to find the Osiris pick.
I don't think you noticed that until it was a little bit too late there, but Cynosure rejoins the duo lane here. We've seen this out of Cynosure a little bit today so far, joining the duo lane with Snoopy to try and soak a bit of experience here, while they send Eonic to the mid lane instead. This just seems the team's focus more often than the something we've seen naturally happening with junglers.
Like we mentioned before in the first game, DayToRemeber needed to be shut down early on, which was successfully executed by Memory of Gabe, but at the same time, Whalrus was getting the shorter end of that stick, but it didn't matter considering the fact that there was rotations being made at the right timings. This time, still applying pressure onto DayToRemeber, but not really finding these objectives afterwards.
You mentioned pressure there. The Oracles will go to Oxygen there, even though they were contested by Memory of Gabe. A little bit of pressure then for Oxygen around that Gold Fury as Hurriwind feeling himself there with the dash in, thinking about channeling for Skeeledon. Take into account every time he uses that final judgment like that, though, it does cost him a little bit of mana now.
Still having the MP5 from his Hourglass, and the more mana you're missing, percentage rather, the more benefit from that MP5 that you'll receive. So I like the idea and the mindset just to strike a little bit of fear into Oxygen Supremacy.
Still surprised that Cynosure sat in this lane until level 5, but now going to rotate towards the mid lane here. Red buff is about to spawn for Oxygen. Snoopy and Cynosure sniff that one out. Venenu is here to defend on Vulcan. One good backfire at the right time could secure it for his team, but Eonic turns up as well. Memory of Gabe don't like this idea though, but the turret's still got aggro of this red buff right now.
Seems that he's going to get it though. A great ultimate from Eonic, the Petrify being deterred. Snoopy in the sky as well as Cynosure. A lot on the mark. Snipes are a little bit good. DayToRemeber going to get first blooded by Hurriwind.
Yeah, the final judgment came through big there for Hurriwind to pick up first blood, and now Memory of Gabe can collect their prize potentially potentially of the red buff. Skeeledon will not contest, but Skeely's thinking about going back in here. 2 members hit, spin in place, but then Ruin as well straight after. Skeely pulled back in by Eonic. He also shows he's got the pulls in his kit, but Skeeledon will slip through that wall just in time. NeiruMah and Venenu there to support will allow Skeeledon to survive.
The timing of that jet stream right before the wall connects by NeiruMah, that almost bit Skeeledon in the butt there, because had that wall been placed a little bit earlier, it would have intercepted the jet stream, not able to really go through that wall, and that would have been the second early death for OS. And this is a team that you don't want to give early momentum to. Memory of Gabe have been playing together for so long, and they're a team that really thrives off of any sort of lead that you hand to them.
And you talk about giving someone a lead. You gave Hurriwind in mid, who's playing Thoth, a lead as well. We'll see where he goes with his build. It's got to be the Doom Orb, so very similar to the way Venenu started things off last time round. Those Doom Orb stacks will bring that mage online a little bit quicker than Oxygen may expect.
There's a lot of safety in the front line for Memory of Gabe, so why wouldn't you go for this glass cannon style from the Thoth player? You have the Thor wall from a distance, very safe, very sound. You have the sustain from Eonic, as well as the huge AoE crowd control knockup that he can provide.
And now he's just going to work on those stacks in the mid lane. His lane opponent, Venenu, though, went for the mobility option. Makes a lot of sense against the opposition he's against here to make sure he gets those penetration boots online. And he may be looking here towards... He's got the tiny trinket, so we'll see where he goes next. It is the lifesteal tree. Are we expecting Bancrofts potentially?
More than likely, it will be the Bancrofts, trying to find that burst damage potential, especially out of Vulcan player. Those ultimates are going to be hitting really hard. Freezing out Eonic, but no real follow-up from the rest of OS as they use their abilities to clear the mid.
But this allows Memory of Gabe to pick up the oracles on the left-hand side. Well, at least one for now. Split is the option as Skeely gets, but Skeely's out of mana.
Skeeledon doesn't have mana, but it doesn't seem that he's going to be the primary target. Instead, just going for the purification beads, not looking for the stun as Hurriwind, instead electing to hold on to that shot for this mid wave. NeiruMah wrapping around underneath. With this advantage, Memory of Gabe could look to start the gold.
Snoopy, DayToRemeber, both back to the dual lane. DayToRemeber has a couple of minions advantage here, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to engage. Both of them recognize there could be a rotation at any given moment, but DayToRemeber, the day he's having, he's not scared right now. The problem is, there's no wards, and guess who's round behind you, Day?
No, DayToRemeber, but he's caught on the right side of the wall. The Petrify not going to find the stun out to Cynosure. That was a very easy pickings. The timing of this rotation favoring Memory of Gabe, because they were already going down south anyway, trying to clear out their red and purple buffs.
That was a repeat of game 1, but it was Snoopy who went aggressive and got punished for it. This time around, DayToRemeber bit off way more than he could chew. No notice of where the jungler was, no notice of where the mid was, and went for the kill. Didn't find it. Instead, pays the price.
That's one of the most hardest slip-ups that I've seen DayToRemeber have this whole day today. Not only did he die there, but he also missed out on a huge important wave. At this point, when you're level 7, every wave is just more important than the last.
Whalrus still level 9 here, having to deal with Skeeledon, who keeps coming over to check on how Kiki is doing here. Kiki's going to be pretty good throughout this game as long as he doesn't die early onto Osiris. He can weather the storm, get some of his core build online here, Toli, and his job is just to peel as this game goes on.
There's a timing window for the Sobek to come online, and Kiki recognizing this, going for the mana chalice, trying to stay in the lane as long as possible, managing to thrive off of lurking in the waters that gives you mana
again.
as well.
Last time round, he got the beads out of Venenu, and he's going to go for Venenu again. This time, won't find a home. NeiruMah, though, will with the freeze on Hurriwind. That's going to get his ultimate. Hurry's in trouble! Gets hit by the Vulcan ult, but it's not enough to pick up a kill.
Not enough yet. Still a 3-on-3, using the sustain from Eonic a little bit. It's not that highest level Sylvanus in the world, though, so the damage from OS has been implemented, going for the Gold Fury.
Trying to get off the back of that win of Cynosure's ult now being on cooldown. At the same time, though, Hurriwind has the final judgment available, and Snoopy will take to the sky early. Investment into DayToRemeber here. The third shot didn't hit, and Snoopy will not be able to pick up DayToRemeber. Different story for Eonic, though, but over the wall comes Whalrus.
Whalrus jumping on in. Skeeledon in a world of hurt. He jet streams away, but look who's waiting for him. Hurriwind dashing on in. Dashing in is Cynosure as well, but the wall cutting him off.
Kiki's in a lot of trouble here, but they want to pick up Cynosure, and Kiki will get hold of it. The rest of his team have to leave. Great blood from Kiki onto Snoopy will force Snoopy back and keep the rest of his team alive. No investment from Memory of Gabe. They're not feeling comfortable enough with their health bars.
No, not at all, but it has been a 2-for-1 as Eonic has a respawn. Kiki, though, in a world of hurt, not able to hit one of those 3. Hurriwind missing one of those 3 allows Kiki to escape barely.
But Kiki will survive to live to fight another a day. 3-2 now. The gold difference is less than around 500, but the Gold Fury Oracles have respawned. That's going to go the way of Memory of Gabe. NeiruMah is going to be here to contest, but I don't think he's going to get here in time to steal them away.
No, not at all. Giving the vision for Memory of Gabe just a little bit longer, so this allows them to back safely while still having vision. You cannot deny this vision with the Sentry Ward, so OS is going to be a little riskier to attempt any sort of Gold Fury attempt from now on.
Very awkward position now for both these two teams. Obviously, Oxygen a bit of an advantage with that one-game lead here. They can afford to suffer a defeat here, but it could potentially take away that momentum we were talking about earlier on.
Off of a 7-game winning streak in order to lose one here. Nice little play from NeiruMah, but
That was
not
so close.
on the mark.
The pull, however, that was a different story. The bad news is Hurriwind wasn't really there to follow up. That wall was a little bit closer, Toli. That was a dead, potentially, Cynosure.
Or at least forcing the ultimate just by placing the wall. You always want to be able to trade out your shorter cooldowns for the longer ones, which is why we'll see Cynosure sometimes dive the backline onto Venenu, sacrificing his ultimate for the beads, or in that scenario, trying to get NeiruMah to use his wall for the ultimate.
If you're just tuning in today, this is the 4th different team Oxygen have faced in a row, and they're winning this one so far as well. The big difference is always the Gold Fury fight, Toli, because every single time we see one of these first Gold Furies, Oxygen have gone 3 kills to 1, 4 kills to 1, and got a substantial gold lead every time. Memory of Gabe need to recognize that and be very careful around that objective.
A lot of the times that these teams have been sacrificing themselves trying to kill the support out of Oxygen Supremacy, and that's been the main focal point. NeiruMah sacrificing himself for the greater good, usually getting a 3-for-1, 4-for-1, and that Gold Fury. And as long as Memory of Gabe just kind of wait it out and don't sacrifice themselves all willy-nilly, then they're still going to be in a good spot.
It's funny, we discuss sacrifice and supports, and it's called sacrificing, right? But if it's a hunter doing it, it's tactical feeding. What's the difference, man? They're both doing the same thing.
Honestly, because you don't really expect a hunter to die.
Oh, but it's okay for a
team.
support to die.
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah. No love for the supports.
Farming going on there for a little while. You can see where Skeeledon is right now, which is over by the Gold Fury one more time, just looking to de-ward and make sure they've got a bit of control. And that is exactly what they've been doing. A lot of investment today, totally in sentry wards, which is something we've not really seen through the league as it's gone on. There was more focus towards rituals and the likes during the early start of the season.
Vision has always been a huge impact in Smite's history. Whoever controls the vision around the Gold Fury can obviously do it safely, depending on whether the enemy team is contesting it. And with mid-mages such as Thoth and the Vulcan, they can use their ultimates from a distance. So you need to make sure that you control not only the sentry vision on the Gold Fury, but aggressively with normal wards.
Beads forced on Cynosure. The meatball hit, but it just wasn't enough. Cynosure will have to take a trip back to base, and that could spell Oxygen looking towards his Gold Fury.
Not investing into any ultimates, and without their Thor player, this is going to be a 5-on-4 up until Cynosure makes the rotation back. But if they stagger a little bit too long, this gives enough timing for Cynosure to come back into this one.
They left it very healthy there, that Gold Fury, totally, but now Skeeledon's here. Will force the rollout at Snoopy. Didn't find the pull he was after. Now they're starting to commit again. Keep an eye on Hurriwind. He's got the final judgment, a game changer. Eonic pushes forward, looks for the ult, invests himself. Oxygen get the Gold Fury. Eonic's life is claimed by Venenu. The final judgment went to the back line, and it looks like Whalrus will clean up NeiruMah at least.
Finding 1-for-1, but the Gold Fury going in the way of OS. Hurriwind, trying to go for Skeeledon through the wall. His spidey senses were tingling, but they weren't on point there. OS sneak one away, the first real lead of the game.
And the only casualty there was once again NeiruMah in trade for Eonic, so it works out in Oxygen's favor once more. This time round, though, it's Memory of Gabe that are going to go straight to the Portal Demon, but Oxygen are sniffing at it themselves.
They want to contest this out. Venenu doesn't have his ultimate, but nice zoning from Whalrus, tethering out to the meatball, connects, but it's being leashed here. DayToRemeber is going to fly.
And now that the damage from Skeeledon is going to get a double kill, the Portal Demon goes to Memory of Gabe, but Memory of Gabe have got to back away from this. Hurriwind's too low, and with only Whalrus and Eonic tanking enough to weather the storm, they don't have the damage output to continue fighting.
That's a nice little comeback from Memory of Gabe to at least get that 750 gold collectively to all of their team. But at the same time, losing Cynosure and Snoopy, now they're not going to be farming some of these waves. They're going to be falling a little bit behind experience-wise, and that's not something you want to do before the level 12 mark once these second relic slots become opened up to you.
Gotta say, Cynosure is starting to struggle in this game so far. We've seen him a couple of times been focused down. He's tried to make an impact, but most of the time he's been burning his beads and forced back to base. Whalrus, though, different story in the solo lane, from my opinion. Done a very good job of dealing with a 2v1 for more often than not, as well as having a 2-0-1 scoreline and still a level lead.
Whalrus taking full advantage of that Osiris passive. Whenever he's missing all 8 fragments, he has that 16% physical damage mitigation, 8% magical, which favors himself facing that 1v2 against the Susano, against the Sobek, no problem. This is not something where he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just Osiris, I can fight this easily. He's calculating this, because if he doesn't have that passive, he's going to be able to have to go back under his own tier 1 tower and let the wave enter there safely.
Still a close game between the two, but Oxygen have 4 members grouped in the mid lane right now, with Eonic now rotating back to support Cynosure and Hurriwind. They need to be careful. Cynosure's plucked in the air. The beads were used, but he was already dead. Still alive for a second, but not long enough. And now they're looking at Hurriwind. Hurriwind frozen in place. Venenu's ult will force the Aegis out of Hurriwind. Is Eonic? He can't stop 4 members chopping at the tower.
Not at all, but it is Hurriwind still here with the final judgment. If he elects to use the left-hand side, we see DayToRemeber clearing out those mid-harpies before making the rotation. On the right side, though, Whalrus just waiting for Snoopy to come in. So as Skeeledon, though, he could look to engage here with a Jetstream pull.
Double Guardians can set it up with walls and plucks for days. Whalrus round the back looks to keep DayToRemeber honest, so he can't get any tower pressure on. And just a threat of that, and knowing the respawns are coming through, with Cynosure having that Thor ult, they disengage.
OS a little hesitant because they invested 3 ultimates trying to kill out Cynosure. Now, granted, they did get Eonic's ultimate in return, but still a little risky to go for that tier 1.
Well, a little bit risky there from NeiruMah to go so far forward. Oxygen were a little out of position. Skeeledon went really deep for Snoopy, and now Skeeledon is actually going to get sniped out by Snoopy. 3 in a row! No! Just the 2, but Cynosure wants it. He can smell the blood of the Medusa.
He's trying to go for it, doing a lot of damage, about half health in return. Finds the stun. The double tap is good. The egg is a little bit delayed, but diving in the other backline, NeiruMah getting dove by Whalrus. Hurriwind doing a lot of damage with that final judgment.
And Whalrus is going to find a second one there. Cancel that. Snoopy will claim that kill for himself. Now Memory of Gabe have a power play on the left-hand side, thanks to the rotation coming out from Whalrus. The tier 1 tower should fall, but on the right-hand side, Tolly, Kiki's done the same thing.
Skeeledon just a little bit too ambitious with that Jetstream portal in to the thick of things, cost himself a little bit of an awkward
Risky
position.
teleport from Kiki. He's already down to half health before he even gets a block up. Kiki's dead. So is Skeeledon. Snoopy with a double kill, and now they can siege a tier 2 as well. Things are starting to go bad on the Oxygen camp right now.
This is the sustain from Eonic, making sure everybody gets topped off. A 5-on-2, easy pickings for Memory of Gabe to find themselves basically 4 kills, a little bit staggered, and those 2 towers on the left-hand side. And now they got themselves a lead, but it's not that big. They're still in it.
That's not really a lead. It really wasn't a lead for Oxygen when you look at the score difference, at least the graphs anyway. Experience is relatively even. Gold at 1,400. Split that between 5. It's not as big as you think.
Especially it's considered the 18-minute mark. Neither team really getting the better end of the other, having to figure out the right tactics to exploit. And it seems that now Memory of Gabe are starting to group up and feeling very confident that they can be able to win some of these AoE comps.
A little bit risky for Memory of Gabe to start this Gold Fury because they don't have all their ultimates available. Oxygen, however, they do, but they're not in a position to contest just yet. They need Skeeledon over here very soon. Eonic's going to pull NeiruMah. NeiruMah eats half his health down already, and into the sky goes Cynosure.
Taking a lot of damage, diving into the backline onto DayToRemeber, but a nice little petrify. Snoopy gets eliminated. Whalrus still diving the backline. The Vulcan ultimate not connecting onto anybody as Eonic gets traded out for Snoopy.
Okay, Venenu and Whalrus both on double kills. Venenu squaring up to Hurriwind, but he's trying to support Kiki now as Cynosure's forced away. The stun from Hurry will only hit onto Kiki, and Kiki's happy enough just to wait around and walk back to safety. Skeely will farm up mid lane. It ends up being a 2-for-2. Not much more to talk about.
Support for Hunter for the support and Hunter. Neither team yet again getting the better end of it. This is such an even game. 2 very evenly matched teams. This could come down to basically the last wire compared to the last game where there's that one team fight around the 30-minute mark that just opens the door for one of them.
It's so funny, Tolly, to hear you say this is an evenly matched game between a Challenger Circuit team and the 5th seed out of the SPL, who were considered a potential super team this year.
They might be a Challenger Circuit team, but they're not playing like one. They have scrim partners that is considered the final boss of the North American Gauntlet.
I'm going to correct you there because you said that they're not playing like a Challenger Circuit team. They are playing like a Challenger Circuit team. The difference is the Challenger Circuit's got a hell of a lot better than it used to be. The talent in there, Tolly, is just as good as the Pro League, and it shows how close it is at the top of competitive play.
Whalrus trying to zone out NeiruMah. The Gold Fury very low. Memory of Gabe does secure it. Cynosure into the sky, trying to find the kill onto this Ymir support. Will be credited with Hurriwind on that last hit. 5-on-4 now for about 30 seconds. This could be a free tier 1 tower.
Needs to be a little bit careful there in the mid lane on that Vulcan, because that's what could happen to you. Feeling himself a little bit too much, but on the right side of things, Skeeledon and KikiSoCheeky will be cheeky enough to strip away the Portal Demon to at least answer back some of that Gold Fury.
Level 15 Susano just needs a tank to be able to get off the damage long enough to confirm that objective. So despite losing tier 1 tower, losing the Gold Fury, gets 750 gold into their pockets. Still struggling a little bit now as that 1400 gold lead gets extended to about 2,500 or so, but still in a good spot considering this is the 20-minute mark. That 2,500 goal lead is not as much compared to, let's say, it happened in the 5 or 10-minute mark.
It's funny because if we've not seen Oxygen play so well all day, Tolly, we would have been sat here going, yeah, Memory of Gabe have got a decent lead right now and it's substantially enough for them just to run away with the game. But the difference is Oxygen are not playing that way. They have been behind at points in games consistently today and still managed to come up with the results.
Other than this set specifically, Oxygen Supremacy have been rolling every team. At the 20-minute mark against every single team, they've basically already had it in the bag or was very close to closing it out already at that point. So Memory of Gabe are definitely a true contenders to be able to climb this gauntlet despite being one game behind.
3 members from Memory of Gabe in mid lane right now. Venenu, without a tier 1 tower, has to be very careful about how far he pushes up here. Got decent walkerish to the right-hand side with 3 sentry wards down for Oxygen. The left-hand side, bit of a different story now. But when you think about it, with only the Fire Giant up, you definitely want to make sure the right-hand side is covered.
Still going for a glass cannon build is Venenu. The ultimate is available to be able to try to steal this one away. Eonic going to get knocked out, taking a lot of poke in return, but this is all a bait, trying to go on to NeiruMah yet again.
Whalrus plucked away by Kiki as well, trying to rotate around the back, and the collapse from Oxygen is actually onto Whalrus. The wall from NeiruMah tried to slow it down, but now the tether is on multiple members of Oxygen, and Venenu was left alone. Poor old Venenu will fall down for his first death this game. Meanwhile, though, Skeeledon will pick up the tree, but now he's going to try and get away from the danger zone. NeiruMah on the front side with Kiki, trying to answer back what Memory of Gabe have just done.
Still a 1-for-1. Eonic gets traded out for Venenu. A lot of poke in return, and without the wisps from Eonic, it makes it more difficult for Memory of Gabe to really stay in this one. No ultimates on the side of Gabe, but with that pick on Venenu, now they don't really have to worry about that big Vulcan ultimate.
1-for-1, and nothing else is going to really come out of this one. You're going to see the teleport come back out from Whalrus, though.
Whalrus.
And if he spots NeiruMah on that low health, they need to be very careful. NeiruMah about where he's going to go. The wall will not stop on Osiris. And in the end, it's Cynosure that gets the kill. And now they look towards Kiki.
We talked about how important vision is, and you can use the vision to also teleport to these wards. Skeeledon getting heavily poked out here. Double tap. Berserker Barrage, second easy pick here. Memory of Gabe, they're so good about their positioning in this mid to late game, being grouped up, and with the sentry wards at the Fire Giant, 2 visions around the top hand side, they're going to be able to get this one for free.
Well, Oxygen have stole a Fire Giant in an awkward circumstance like this before against Noble. Can they do it again? The Fire Giant is at half, but Memory of Gabe have switched their attention to Oxygen themselves. Kiki's dead. Next on the list will be Venenu. And DayToRemeber, he'll like the start of the day. He might want to change his mind about the afternoon as Hurriwind from downtown will clean him up.
This is trouble for Oxygen Supremacy. The Fire Giant going in the way of Memory of Gabe. This could be the first time that any team has been able to secure a Fire Giant against them. Well, either way, this is looking a really slippery slope now. Oxygen with their biggest deficit thus far, about 5,000 gold down, 6,000 experience. This is where things are getting a little bit trickier because not only are they this far behind gold-wise, but there's also about 3,500 gold worth worth of towers for the pickings for Memory of Gabe.
What's the big issue for Oxygen here, though? They're starting to fall behind a little bit. Is it their choice in the engagements here, Tolly? Or is it Memory of Gabe just utilizing their abilities better?
It's the safe long-range poke coming out of Memory of Gabe, being able to take advantage of NeiruMah, this immobile Ymir Guardian. And it was a little bit of a different story compared to the Ymir this game, compared to the Ymir that NeiruMah was playing in the set against Noble, because Noble kept grouping up very close together, making it very easy for Oxygen to throw all their abilities in one little area, hitting everybody on Noble. But this time around, Memory of Gabe, they're spreading themselves out so well that they cannot replicate the same situation.
And that level 19 man is the man I'm looking at you for to say, because Whalrus is level 19 right now, 6-0-9. They keep trying to go in on him, and he doesn't care about towers. He's Osiris. Bad news is they left Snoopy alone. Snoopy's forced to Aegis and run from Kiki. On the backside, though, Hurriwind does delete DayToRemeber once again with the final judgment, and still Kiki's alive on the left.
He's dashing away, but Cynosure's chasing him down. The snipes from the Rama player. Nice little wall, preventing it from getting away. Cynosure with the double tap. 2 free kills yet again. The Fire Giant squad out of Memory of Gabe. They're going to be able to get this tier 2 tower with only 3 members from Oxygen. I don't see how they can hold this one.
2 ultimates available, though. Venenu has that Vulcan Earthshaker available to him if he uses it the right time. Skeeledon's 1 hit from death. He's been forced back, and the Phoenix will fall down in mid. Oxygen have to surrender it, and now immediately Memory of Gabe going to use the Fire Giant and go for the second Phoenix.
Great patience from Venenu, not using his ultimate from mid because it was guaranteed down, but nobody in the front line. NeiruMah too far back forward. Skeeledon was coming back from the fountain. Left side Phoenix falling as well. This is trouble, like I mentioned before. Oxygen Supremacy, they were down 5,000 gold literally 1 or 2 minutes ago.
We talked earlier on, Tolly, and you were saying this game's pretty much over for Oxygen. Is this over right now? Is Memory of Gabe in the driving seat completely here?
If they can get this next Fire Giant, then yes, this game will be completely over. I still think that they can win a team fight potentially here,
sure,
but they have to make sure that none of the fire waves flooding down middle or the dual lane side will enter that Titan room to chip it away.
With only 1 teleport available, Kiki's one of the ones that he's going to have to defend those lanes. Memory of Gabe, however, will pick up the Portal Demon here, ready for the next Fire Giant to spawn as well. Fire Giant not up for another couple of minutes yet because they're still on them. They're not going to realistically, do you expect them to siege the tier 1 and tier 2 on right before this Fire Giant ends?
They could at least get the tier 1 tower, then while they're doing that, they can start warding very aggressively between the blue and the speed buff, and this will allow them to spot out Venenu that could be out of position or maybe trying to sneak around behind the Fire Giant. And the way Memory of Gabe has been positioning themselves, they're taking advantage of anybody from Oxygen that's out of position.
Well, this could be the moment for Memory of Gabe to take the very first game off of Oxygen Supremacy today. The tier 1 falls, the tier 2 will fall soon after. No defense out of Oxygen, not really surprised with 2 Phoenixes down, and still a full Fire Giant team working its way towards you, at least for a few more seconds.
25 seconds remaining on this Fire Giant buff. Kiki getting poked out a little bit, going into the sky, but once he lands, he doesn't have that hammer to teleport out of danger.
Where's he gonna go? He looked for Kiki there after the pluck, but didn't find it. Instead, it's the Phoenix focus coming out from Memory of Gabe. All 5 members of Oxygen have now turned up to defend. Kiki's already low, and Kiki's being juggled. Final judgment from Hurriwind. Once again, takes out another member. Snoopy in the sky, looking for the snipes. 2 in a row, not the third one again. Snoopy's not on the run we've seen of days of old, but it could be good enough to stop the dream collapsing for Oxygen here today. The final Phoenix still stands as Hurriwind goes unstoppable.
This is the late game Thoth that can almost one-shot you off of one ability, synergizing off of that wall. What was a 1 pick onto Eonic earlier on has been traded out. Kiki falling as well as DayToRemeber. 4 on 3 now. This right side Phoenix still getting pressure. Titan getting chipped away by this fire waves.
It's all 3 Phoenixes down here, Tolly. Snoopy's going to clean that up finally with the arrows with it down, and Hurriwind will just destroy NeiruMah again.
The fadeaway shots from Hurriwind. Great play, Hurriwind. Overall, 8-0 in 12. Glass Cannon Thoth, just not afraid of the world.
And now they're just going to fall back because there's no reason to hang around here. Go buy, spend the gold they just got from the tier 1, tier 2. Final items out here. Get some more sentry wards. Maybe a couple of the power potions available once you hit level 10 as well. And then take the final Fire Giant just to make sure you don't make any mistakes.
Better safe than sorry. Memory of Gabe are probably in the best position that they've been in so far this whole set. Trying to close out their first game of this set, giving the first loss to Oxygen Supremacy.
Funny enough, DayToRemeber is currently 0-8 in this game.
It doesn't feel like it, though.
No, it didn't, but then I'm looking back and I'm like, maybe that's what Memory of Gabe's tricky little game plan was all along. Focus, DayToRemeber. Maybe he is the super secret spice that brings this team together.
There's been a lot of trades back and forth. You know, Eonic falling a lot, Cynosure falling a few times, as well as Snoopy. So I can see how these devs been stacking up, but he's not that far behind. He's only level 17 still compared to the level 19. It feels like he should be more behind than he really is.
Very true, but he's behind enough to put Oxygen at a disadvantage on this final push coming in from Memory of Gabe. Middle Phoenix will be the first to spawn, followed soon after by the left-hand side Phoenix. Memory of Gabe may look to clean up all of them before they look to siege down the Titan.
Especially considering there's just a lot of damage of Venenu being set up by Skeeledon on the right. Venenu is on the left, stunning out Kiki, doing a little bit of poke here. The meatball onto Hurriwind, chunking him out a little bit.
In comes some minions, left-hand side, fire minions on the Phoenix too, but here's the engagement. Cynosure takes this guy, looks for an option. He will come straight down onto Skeeledon, and one nice old crit from Snoopy will spell his demise. Next on the list is Kiki, who dashes into danger. A double kill for Whalrus, and the surrender vote goes up as Oxygen realize they can't win this one.
The streak is over. 7 games being shut down now. Memory of Gabe tying it up. They're going to go into game number 3 here between these two teams, and this was a different Memory of Gabe compared to the last game.
It was, but there's no smiles on their faces now because they realize, you know, game 1 did not go their way. Game 2 is even things up, but they've still got one more to play. Oxygen still have one more to play. This is the first time they've tasted defeat so far today, but it's not taken them out just yet.
Well, this is going to be a true test to see where this team stands against the best of the best. Memory of Gabe, they might not necessarily have the greatest record right now, but they all have the SPL players that have the experience and the mindsets to be able to take these sets into the long haul.
So the question is now on my lips is, what do we see Oxygen do next? Do they go for the first pick or the second pick?
To shut down Mark Maloney.
Well, let's find out what the analysts have to say, I guess, and see what they can talk about for that set. It was a very long one between the two teams. Tom, what have you got for us?
Thanks a lot, Hindu, and of course, Anatoly breaking down the game for us. Well, bringing us the game, it's our job to break it down. I'm still Tom F. Battinger. This is going to be Mr. Chaos, and then, of course, we have Taco all the way down there. We're going to break down this one for you, which is the first time that we actually have to see a loss on the side of Oxygen Supremacy. These guys have looked very, very strong throughout the entire day. Reminder, they're the Challenger Circuit team. They're kind of not supposed to be here, but they certainly have earned their way. What do you think was the major issue in Game 2 here?
It was just the focus onto DayToRemeber. It just immediate shutdown of that Medusa, and he just had no freedom whatsoever to try and maneuver in and out of his lane, in and out of these team fights. And when you take a player like that who's been on a roll all day long and you shut him out to an 0-8 plus scoreline, that is just, that gets in your head.
In game number 1, you said that, Chaos, you said that it was all about dual lane pressure.
Right.
And I think that we saw the sort of turnaround right there.
Yeah, I think once he ended up getting focused as hard as he did, he lost that momentum and wasn't able to pump out the damage that he needed to in team fights. And because of that, Ymir also ended up getting picked because they didn't have that damage to keep him alive and to keep their whole team comp in the game.
So earlier, we also identified that in Memory of Gabe, they are a team that wins off of individual talent most of the time. They're just a stronger team at pushing their buttons than you most of the time. And game number 1, we saw some Cynosure on the Chang'e that hasn't really been proved. Well, this time around, Cyno got his Thor. We saw Hurriwind on a Mage. We saw some of the more traditional picks that in Memory of Gabe enjoyed playing. And I think that's why they wind up with the win. Just everybody kind of got what they wanted.
I think that Whalrus also did an excellent job at maintaining his composure despite that first loss going the way that it did for Gabe, because you have to consider when you're carrying so hard as an Odin and then you're unable to really capitalize off of that despite the setup you're giving your team. But that wasn't the story this time around with Osiris. He immediately just took over.
That's, you know, I don't want to be that guy, but that's what I said. He has the Odin and he gets a great lead and it's on an Odin. Like, good for you, buddy. The cage doesn't get any stronger when you're 4-0. Unfortunately for him and his team, they weren't able to win game 1. But then in game number 2, you give him a god that he can actually push stuff around on. Bam, he's an Osiris. He's able to make it work. In Memory of Gabe, wind up finding the win. Big part of that win, though, I'm going to let you talk about the mid lane.
I think Hurriwind hit many, many strong ultimates. He ended up getting a lot of damage off in these fights. He was capitalizing on a lot of what Thoth does so well, is hitting people over these walls, and he opened up so many opportunities for his team to just win through these team fights.
We talked about it before Game 2 about how Thoth impacts these fire giant dances and how your positioning is always important, but it becomes harder to do so with a Thoth. And then we saw Hurriwind exactly do that. He's forcing the opposition to sort of run up into the lanes or just die, and that's kind of what we saw. The Thoth really came through in the clutch, and again, I think putting Hurriwind on a mage like this just is a better overall shot than putting him on the Cupid.
And the snipes from downtown by Hurriwind were just so important for helping Gabe pick up those team fights that they really needed. The picks were essential, and because of DayToRemeber, and not just Day alone, I mean, tons of members on the side of Oxygen Supremacy just falling down to these ultimates.
Well, I think that's also a key there, is the fact that DayToRemeber has been such a catalyst for this squad, both in his gameplay and in his what he's been able to exude on the actual reality of the battlefield here. He's out there screaming, he's out there yelling, he's taunting people, and that's a very big deal. I mean, you brought up Paradigm before and how those guys are able to sort of get in your brain. Well, is this the point? Is DayToRemeber in his own head now after one match?
I really want to see how Oxygen Supremacy are going to bounce back from this moment, because it's easy enough maintaining your momentum when you're winning consistently. And I mentioned it earlier on the cast with Aggro. As long as they stay winning, they should be fine momentum-wise. But now that they've hit that little bit of a brick wall, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they can surpass it.
For me, I spoke to Chaos and a couple of other players. It's less about the loss and more about the time. We went live at about 11 a.m. and now it's almost 5:30 Eastern time. And you know, this is part of the gauntlet. It's part of the grind, and it's part of what makes this so exciting. But mental toll, energy toll, Chaos. What are we looking at? These guys have been playing for about 6 hours.
I think by playing so much, you end up getting so caught up in like everything that you're doing, and it gets very difficult to keep thinking on your feet, thinking on your toes, because you're so exhausted. It's so difficult to have to play these high intense matches, because it isn't just like a casual game. You're grinding for 6 hours, because I could do that. I could grind for 8 hours and it's fine. But when you're playing in a high competitive setting, like, it takes so much out of you.
I mean, you're looking at these guys. These guys are trying to make it to the Smite Masters, which is, I mean, spring. That's our spring final, and they weren't even in the Pro League. So they're absolutely, trying to truck it out and make it happen. And when you're looking at, like I said, you got to look at the outside lanes. Kiki and DayToRemeber have been able to do so much, and it's just so high octane fighting. That's what it is. That's why I'm a little bit worried here as we get deeper into the night, because DayToRemeber has made a name for himself today off of just being active and not just yelling, but also in-game. How long can you keep that up? That's I've got my eye on that one a little bit tentatively. I want to see how this team bounces back. Do you think we need to see a change in strategy, or is it just they got one, let's keep going again?
I imagine what they're anticipating doing at this point in time after finding their first loss is they just want to run back to what's comfortable for them. You've been playing for almost 7 hours now. You just want to have a little bit of a breather, get your mind to take a bit of a break. And if they're playing gods that they're familiar with, then I think that that'll be all the more essential for them finding another victory to progress and face off against Thor.
All right, here. Day looks ready to go. He doesn't. A lot of times we see that. A lot of times we'll show this camera during other lands, and you can definitely see it on the players' faces when they're feeling some type of way. Day obviously is not about to throw a party, but he doesn't seem like he's down in the dumps right now.
Like I said, they didn't come this far to fail here. I think they're still going to push it through and end up taking the 2-1.
Really? So what do you think is going to be the key? Is it going to be Day one more time?
I'm thinking maybe they might put Ven back on an ADC. It seems like that was been their strongest point. They play their most aggressive when he's on an ADC. Not to say that he hasn't been playing well on mages, but it just seems like it fits their overall playstyle. I think if Day doesn't get so crippled from the beginning of the game, he's definitely going to be able to make much more of an impact during these fights.
Yeah, I think a really key part is going to be NeiruMah. He's sort of the battery pack for that squad. He's able to just energize players and really bring them back to key form, which is what Snoopy has been known for in Memory of Gabe. His ability to not only just provide those long-range ultimates on the ROM, but also just control a team fight on whatever god he chooses to come out with is certainly a big part of what makes Snoopy, Snoopy.
I almost